More and more people are getting interested in meditation. I think it's wonderful to have meditation. I think here in the West, the meditation most people are interested in, the one that's gaining traction, is what I call object meditation. Perhaps this is mindfulness meditation. I'm not really sure. But regardless, it's a style of meditation that comes from the Buddhist tradition. And I think it's a very positive force. I think object meditation is accessible, and it can go quite deep. And so I think it's a good thing. However, there are other kinds of meditation. So I come from the Taoist tradition. I come from a lineage called the Long Pai, the Dragon Gate Lineage, from my teacher Wang Liping. And in our lineage, we do a style of meditation called dark meditation. So the core of our practice is internal alchemy, but we do the internal alchemy within meditation. And the way that we meditate is something called dark meditation, or in the Chinese it's called Ming. So today let's look at what dark meditation is and how it's similar and different from object meditation. Okay, so let's take a look at the terms. So I learned things in Chinese, so I'm translating for my students here in the West and on this channel. And in Chinese we call object meditation Ta Xiang and dark meditation Ming Xiang. Now, if you speak Chinese, you may have noticed that I'm using this word Ming Xiang, right? And Ming Xiang in modern Chinese just means meditation. It doesn't mean dark meditation. There's no technical, specific way of using that term. And that's because in modern Chinese, modern Chinese have borrowed these terms from the classical tradition and used them in new ways. So Mingxiang in Chinese is a very generic term for meditation. However, the way I'm using it today is from the classical traditional Taoist tradition, where all these terms have very specific technical meaning. And so Mingxiang within the Taoist tradition has very specific meanings. Let's take a look at object meditation first. It's one that most people are familiar with. When you think about meditation, you probably think about object meditation. And this comes from the Buddhist tradition. I've done object meditation myself. I started with a Chan tradition, and I also did some Tibetan Buddhist shamatha practice. And so I have some experience with object meditation, and it's fun. I love object meditation. So object meditation is when we focus on an object. So we put our awareness, our focus, our concentration on a specific object. Often that object will be in the body, but it can be outside as well. It can just be on open space. It can be on our breath. It can be on a certain, maybe the movement of the lower abdomen. It can be on different energy centers in the body. It can be on a mandala. It can be on the light. There's different objects that we can use to place our awareness onto and then work at relaxing and stilling our mind at the same time that we increase the amount of focus we're putting onto that object. And that is a profound way of training the mind to become very focused, right? And while we are in that state of absorption into the object, there's lots of wonderful benefits that happen with that, right? I think mindfulness meditation, earlier in the talk, I wasn't sure if that's quite the right term. I don't really understand enough about Buddhism to understand where mindfulness meditation comes from. It's talked a lot about here in the West, but I haven't encountered it much in Chinese or in my own practice. But I guess it's just being aware of the present moment and being very present and still in that moment. Again, good stuff, and I think it's profound. I remember when I really dug into object meditation, I went on to a meditation. I did a retreat, a 7-day retreat with certain methods, and the amount of stillness that I reached was just, it was fantastic. It was really wonderful experience just to release the mind and allow the random thoughts to just disappear. And there just to be that wonderful moment and the object that I was focusing on. So object meditation, in Chinese we call that ta xiang. So ta, like the pronoun for that thing. And it's good stuff. But for our lineage and for what I teach and way that we practice within Taoist alchemy, we don't use that. We don't use ta xiang. We don't use object meditation. We use something called dark meditation, Ming xiang. Ming xiang is a different way of approaching meditation. And like I mentioned before, in modern Chinese, Ming xiang just means meditation. But here we're talking about something specific. This is a technical Taoist use of the word Ming. To Ming means to be dark or obscured, hidden. And first of all, within Chinese technical language, there is 2 words for Ming that sound exactly the same. And these refer to 2 styles of meditation, of contemplation. So there is Ming, as in bright, or with the senses open to contemplate. And there is Ming, which means dark or hidden, which means we close the senses and contemplate inside. And so the Ming with the eyes and ears open has the sun and the moon in the same character, for those of you who read and write Chinese, right? So we're not going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about Ming as in dark or hidden or obscure. And so the main focus with dark meditation is that we close off everything. We close off our senses. We call this the san bi, the 3 closings or the 3 ceilings. And so first of all, with dark meditation, we meditate in a dark room. So we arrange the room in a way that there's no light. So we seal up the windows, not just close the curtains, but black out the windows so there's no light. Close the door, and this is an important part of the meditation. We go into darkness. This kind of meditation is wonderful in a dark cave up in the mountains, or a hut with no windows. It's a specific way of practicing. So that's one thing with dark meditations. We use a dark room. Second, we, as I was mentioning, we seal up the senses. We have the 3 ceilings, the 3 closings, the san bi, and that's the ears, the eyes, and the mouth. Those 3 apertures need to be closed. So there's we use certain methods to close the 3 apertures in the head, 3 openings. I won't go into those methods here. This talk is more just an introduction, but I will go through the experience of it. So first of all, with closing down the ears, we go through, for both ears and seeing, ears and eyes, we use inner seeing and inner hearing. Inner hearing and inner seeing reorient our awareness inside. So for Ming xiang, for dark meditation, we want to go inside the body. Our eyes are closed. We're not going to listen. Our mouth is closed. We're going to be inside the body. So we're in a dark room already, and then we're going to go deeper inside so it becomes even darker by going inside. So inner hearing, we have, there's far hearing, near hearing, outer hearing, and then turn around hearing inside, and then we have inner hearing. So we go through a process following a specific method of working with that kind of hearing to come back inside, bring the hearing inside, and then listen inside the body with our ears. And it's profound practice. I love inner hearing. Inner seeing also goes through a similar process. First, we have far seeing, near seeing, and we turn around seeing, and then we go into inner observation, neidan, and then we go from inner observation. So we're now inside the body, looking inside the torso. So we have our awareness, our yinyan is inside the torso. We've turned around our seeing. We're looking inside. Then we move into inner observation. The difference between inner seeing and inner observation is inner seeing has movement. It moves around. It has perspective. Inner observation, it doesn't move. It's just we set up a field of observation, and we just observe. It doesn't move, so it becomes very still, stable, and we just observe a field of perception, and that is inside the body. And then if we hold that long enough, the inner observation, neidan, will shift into inner illumination, or neizhao. And so by focusing inside the internal inner cavity of the body, we'll shift from observing to illuminating. So by looking, it'll become brighter inside. There's a brightness that will begin to appear as the internal energy kicks in and begins moving. So with Taoist meditation, we're all into the qi, the energy, and working with that, and that's what we call inner illumination, or neizhao. So we've sealed the ears, gone inside, we're listening inside, we've closed the eyes, we're seeing inside, observing inside, hanging out inside. And the inner illumination, you can think of it as by going into extreme darkness, the opposite arises, right? So wuji bifan, by going to extreme one way will come around the other way, and that is light will appear. By darkening the room, by closing our senses, going inside, we'll be able to see the light of our spirit, because the body is light. We are beings of light in a physical body, right? And so we can begin to experience that. So the third of the three sealings is the mouth. The mouth is closed. So no sound comes out of the mouth. We don't talk. But more importantly, there's an embedded meaning is that there's no thinking. So no random thoughts. Random thoughts go. We don't, you let them go, right? And same with object meditation, right? We don't want any cursive thinking, or at least we want to relax that thinking and then allow it to slowly settle down and disappear, and enter long periods where there are no random thoughts that arise. It takes a little time to get there. Initially there will be random thoughts, but we can get to a point where there are no random thoughts. There is just focus. Right? So closing the mouth is really referring to the random thoughts more than anything. Unless you like to talk a lot while you meditate, which is kind of strange. No, nobody does that, right? So the third one is kind of a hidden meaning there. And when we turn off the thoughts, the random thoughts disappear, we begin merging with Tian, with heaven, with the cosmos, the celestial sphere. And this is another preoccupation with the Taoists. We're interested in not just our own thing that's going on inside the meat suit, but also merging with heaven. And again, by closing off from the outer environment, both in darkness and with our senses, again, it's a kind of a paradox, but the opposite happens, right? We begin by going inside, we can begin setting up a resonance response with the celestial sphere, and that's a part of that's included in the closing the mouth. All right, so we have the sanbi, the three closings or the three sealings, and we're inside, and we enter what the Taoists call a Ming space, the Ming Jian, and this is a bit of a shadowy world where we can't see clearly, and we just sit with that. That's okay, because within that shadowy world, within the Ming space, things, we can sort of disassociate with the normal self that we operate with in the normal world, right? So in the normal sort of three-dimensional time and space world, physical body, we are operating in a certain way, and we have a certain self that is helping us survive and thrive within that dimension. Well, with dark meditation, one of the things we're looking to achieve is to break down that self. Let's break down the right word. We still have that self. We're still a part of the world, but it can be very helpful and healing and useful for us to disassociate from it from times. It's kind of like pull out the connection to it, right? It's kind of like maybe the modern equivalent is just turning off your cell phone. You know, don't look at whatever feeds you got going on. You kind of close down the feeds, put it on airplane mode. We're doing that with the body, right? We're putting the body on airplane mode, so we're not receiving that stuff. And then the self that we have that deals with that usually can begin to relax and dissolve, and then we begin to get in touch with the bigger self, right? Because that little self is not the true self, the Zhenwo, right? So the Taoists are interested in getting in touch with what's called the Zhenwo, the true self. And that is a much bigger, everlasting thing, eternal thing. And so dark meditation can do that by sealing the three openings, going inside, and following specific methods. There's specific methods of turning around the hearing, turning around the seeing, no random thoughts, focusing inside. It's really important you focus inside the torso and just observing. We unplug from the Taoists use this term called xu, and xu means a sequence or a process. And so we have all these processes that are connected into the outside world. They might be thought processes. I'm Nathan. I live in Vancouver. I teach Taoist alchemy, right? Whatever that stuff is. Those are processes. Those are xus. And you know, they can be useful at times, but if we get caught up in them, they're not useful. So we can break those xu, the sequences, the processes. We also have internal processes like the heart circulation, our breathing, various energetic processes, karmic processes, processes to do with our destiny, our Ming. There's environmental processes, xu, like the changing of the seasons and everything. And so what Mingxiang can do, the dark meditation, is reset all that. Just say, okay, let's just reset all the processes and let them start again. It's kind of like taking your computer and shutting it down, or erasing the cache. You know, maybe you got a bunch of different, you know, applications running in the background. It's like shutting down all those applications, resetting to zero, starting up the hardware, and then, you know, your operating system again, so it runs cleaner and more powerfully. And so this is what we do in dark meditation. I think other kinds of meditation also touch on that. They're not separate, right? But I think the way that we do it in dark meditation is different, right? So where we go inside and we seal everything off in a dark room and just focus inside. Now, the other thing we reset those processes. The other thing that happens with dark meditation is because you're in this sort of shadowy space, this Ming space, and we begin to forget who we are. We forget the small self, who we are, and we kind of forget, you know, there's an outside and an inside. There's this and a that. There's all these sort of our perception, right? The way our jiaodu, the way we see things, kind of gets broken down while we're in dark meditation, and that allows for wisdom to come through, and profound knowledge of the true self, who we really are, where we've come from, who we are in this present moment, and where we're going, the big picture. You know, and it's in that space that we'll have, you can have these sort of interesting experiences like seeing past lives and that sort of stuff. Although they're not important, you know, it's not something we need to go and try. I want to have those experiences. They do tend to arise within dark meditation, just because the way how everything has been set up. Dark meditation, it's another way of meditating. It's one that we use a lot within our lineage. So in our lineage, when we're the core of our practice is internal alchemy, and that's working with energy inside the body and learning to transform that energy into higher vibratory states. It's a spiritual thing. It's good for health and well-being, but it's a spiritual thing. The goal of it. And dark meditation is a part of that. It's a part of that tradition. For those of you who are in this tradition with Master Wang, and you know, his advice is sometimes you just don't want to do any internal alchemy. You don't want to work on, you know, your lower dantian or whatever. And then just do dark meditation. Just do the shou xin jing zuo, right? We call to gather into the core, gather in the mind and the heart, and sit quietly. And what that refers to is Ming. So Ming is a certain way of doing quiet sitting that you can use. Now, the downside of dark meditation is it needs to be done for long periods of time. And I think this is why it's not very accessible to a greater kind of mainstream audience. And what I mean by a long time is each session needs to be fairly long, a few hours. 2 to 3 hours is best. And that just allows, after you've closed down the senses, you're inside. It allows those processes, the shu we're talking about, to shut down and something new to happen, to begin. And for a lot of people, that can be difficult. It was for me. I mean, it's something that I had to work towards, and I'm pretty sure most people do. You know, your legs get sore because we do it in cross-legged sitting meditation, and you don't move the legs, and the legs can get sore, and your mind gets bored, and you know it wants to do something else. The idea of just sitting still for a few hours can be can be pretty intense, and so that's one thing. Whereas with object meditation, taxiang, you don't need that. You can. So when I did my 7-day object shamatha retreat, I was doing sessions 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 24 minutes, something like that, anywhere in there. And I'll wake up at 4 in the morning and just start a session, then take 5-10 minute break, and then do another session, and then just go all day, break for meals. But you could just constantly do it. It wasn't uncomfortable. And you don't, with object meditation, you don't want discomfort. You want to be very comfortable, relax, let the body just totally relax. You can just focus on working the mind. That's the focus. And so it's more accessible. It's much easier to do. You can do a 20-minute session at home and you get something out of it. With dark meditation, it's tougher. You have to do longer sessions to get something out of it. Okay, so dark meditation, Mingxiang. If you are interested in how to do it, you can check out my online program or some of my books, The Taoist Alchemy of Wang Liping. You can go into there. You'll find methods for inner seeing and inner hearing that'll help you access how to do dark meditation. So yeah, there you have it, Mingxiang.